Hello out there in internet land. Welcome to episode 11 of the P&J Formula One chat. Boy oh boy do we have an explosive, action-packed, filled to the brim episode. If you have that much excitement, you need Mr. Excitement with you. Introducing my co-host, JB. How are you, JB?
I'm excited. Like Big Kev used to say.
I am your host, Phil Lamington. I thought I'd change the format and stuff up how we actually start off the show, like I do every other episode. We're up to episode 11.
Yeah,
How did we get this far?
because YouTube ain't going to stop us, because no one listens to us.
Yeah, because they also don't pay us, but
We
still.
don't get millions of dollars and give like houses away to people like that, or the other YouTubers that get paid for this.
We don't even get the silver plaque
No.
with the YouTube logo on it.
No, but we did get something silver this weekend. It was Silverstone.
Silverstone, yes. Yes, it had silver, so we got something silver. And it was a unique format this weekend because the Friday had practice 1 and then qualifying.
Yes.
And then day 2, the Saturday, had practice 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new sprint qualifying race.
Yes,
The sprint race?
the new sprint format that's going to be used 3 times this year, apparently.
And then Sunday was the race, and what an action-packed race it was too.
What an action-packed weekend! Just in general, it was huge. It was massive.
Very much was. So we're gonna throw the typical format that we do with these things. We're gonna throw that out the window due to Formula One themselves throwing it out the window. So we're gonna cover the sprint race first.
Well, the sprint race was first.
Yeah.
So this was Saturday afternoon, which was basically a 100-kilometer race, sprint race, very much Formula 2 style inspired. Wound up being 17 laps, which would then determine the grid for the main race on Sunday. So winning the sprint race was Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Finished ahead of Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Charles Leclerc in 4th. 5th was Lando Norris. 6th was Daniel Ricciardo. 7th was Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. 8th was Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin. 9th was George Russell in the Williams. Unfortunately for him, this race didn't count for championship points past P3. So 0 championship points despite a 9th place finish for him in the sprint race. 10th, Esteban Ocon in the other Alpine. 11th was Carlos Sainz, which sounds disappointing, but was actually quite impressive, and I'll fill you in on the details in a sec. 12th was Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. 13th was Kimi Raikkonen in the Alfa Romeo. 14th was Lance Stroll in the other Aston Martin. 15th was Antonio Giovinazzi in the second Alfa Romeo. 16th, Yuki Tsunoda in the second AlphaTauri. 17th, Nicholas Latifi in the Williams. 18th, Mick Schumacher in the Haas. 19th, his ever not so reliable teammate Nikita Mazepin in the other Haas. And very, very disappointing 20th, Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull.
Yeah, it must have been really disappointing for Perez. I mean, he got hit, didn't he? He got spun.
I believe he spun. He either got hit or spun, but yeah, he spun out and had to start from the very, very back of the grid. In fact, I actually think he started from pit lane for the main race.
Yeah, they had to change something on his car. It might have been a gearbox or something.
Yeah, I think just as a precaution.
Yeah.
So anyway, the sprint race unfolded. It was a strategy battle. Even for a 17-lap race, it was a strategy battle because Valtteri Bottas and Mercedes tried to gamble on the soft tyre over the medium tyre runners of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in an attempt to cover the Red Bull off and try and get a Mercedes 1-2 by the end of the first lap. Didn't work. Max Verstappen got his Red Bull off the line brilliantly, launched from P2 and got past Lewis Hamilton by the time they got into turn 2. So once again, I think it's happened a couple times this year where Max and Lewis have gotten off the line pretty easily, but Max has got his elbows out and got ahead of the Mercedes. Nikita Mazepin spinned on lap 1, which was, I guess, not super surprising. But what was surprising was Fernando Alonso in the Alpine went from position 11 to P5 in one lap. Got an absolute dream start. Was up alongside a lot of the better performing cars. Russell bumped Carlos Sainz off the track into the gravel, and Carlos Sainz fell down to 18th by the end of the first lap. But as I said, he managed to recover to 11th, so at least showed some promise that Ferrari had some pace for the rest of the weekend. By the fifth lap, Valtteri Bottas had fallen off the back of the lead group, and Mercedes obviously realised that their tyre gamble had failed. Fernando Alonso was reported to race control by Lando Norris and by McLaren for excessive weaving. Meanwhile, Sergio Perez spun out and went down to the back of the grid. Lap 6, Lando Norris gets past Fernando Alonso. Lap 10, his McLaren teammate Daniel Ricciardo gets past Fernando Alonso. And in a rather uneventful rest of the race, by lap 17, Max Verstappen had won the race from Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Charles Leclerc, and the two McLarens. So, I mean, it wasn't super exciting like you'd see on a regular F2 race, but I don't know. I guess it was something different, and I think that the reception for the concept was genuinely positive.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. Like it was an interesting curio. It was different seeing some form of a race on the Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I wasn't a fan of with the sprint, and this is purely because like we live in Australia, was the time they put it on.
Yeah, 2 a.m. is not a fan-friendly time.
No, like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it really was. It was. I mean, they weren't thinking of a global audience.
No, they're just thinking about the British audience.
Yeah, well, I mean, fair enough. And I mean, the Grand Prix itself didn't start till midnight, which is an hour or two later than it usually has been. So.
Because they normally start at 11 p.m. here.
Yeah, 11 p.m. and you can usually be done by 1, and it's not too bad for a Monday morning. But stretching it till 2 in the morning is a little bit rough. But
the race itself got stretched out a little bit more, but we'll cover that in a few seconds.
We will absolutely cover that. But fan of the sprint race?
I am, but I'm not.
Yeah.
There's some things about it that they hadn't clarified, or they hadn't really explained it too well, which was, pardon me, about like the tyre choice.
Yeah, did everyone have free tyre choice? Because it technically wasn't a race.
Yeah, I mean, that I didn't quite understand what was going on. I still am a little bit in the dark about it. All I know is the tyres they did the sprint race on were the ones they started the race on.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you ask me my opinion on what they should do for the... Oh, my headphones keep sliding forward. If you ask me my opinion on what they should do with the sprint race formula, I have an alternative idea. And I came up with the idea while watching this, thinking about the Austrian F1 from 2 weeks ago. I think they should do the sprint race on the Friday.
Yeah.
And the order that they finish the sprint race in is the order they get sent out in for qualifying.
Like one lap qualifying, like supercar style, top 10 shootout, you just get the whole track to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not against that idea either.
The reason for it is because if you watch the qualifying from Austria, you had all those cars backing up and people having to abort their laps
Yeah,
because
Fernando
of...
Alonso had to abort his lap because he almost collected Sebastian Vettel. Yeah.
And if they do it like that, you completely avoid that issue.
You don't have to worry about getting towed or blocking someone or creating a slipstream for someone you don't want to create a slipstream for. Yeah, like why? Yeah, just send all 20 drivers out. You get one timed lap, like a V8 Supercars top 10 shootout. You get one timed lap. That's it. Like a one-shot qualifying in the game. You get your one lap, and whatever time you set is where you're going to start on the grid.
Well, even if they keep the 45-minute thing, right, and don't break it into Q1, Q2, and Q3, but at the end of, well, we'll call it Q1. At the end of the time of Q1, the lowest 5 cars at the end of the Q1 period still get eliminated.
You just have less and less cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. You lose the bottom 5, and then you have like a Q2 time, and you lose the next 5, and then the top 10 do a single lap by themselves. Like, you could literally do it like Australian supercars.
Yeah.
Just as a different sort of format. Soft tyres, no fuel. No one's going to block you. You're not going to gain half a tenth by getting towed either. It's you and the car versus the clock, and that's it.
And, you live and die by the sword.
That's it. If you stuff your lap up, like, imagine Lewis, like, running wide into the gravel or something and stuffing his lap up and having to start P18 instead of getting a second bite at the cherry.
Yeah.
Like, it would add that element of randomness to it as well.
Or if you have your lap time deleted.
Yeah, or if you exceed track limits and all of a sudden you're starting P20 because your lap time doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not against that either, actually, to be honest.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's
kind of cool.
But I mean, only do it on specific races where you're going to have the sprint race. I still think for the other races where they're not doing the sprint race, stick with the standard qualifying format.
Yeah, I think the shorter sort of tracks that would work for, Austria would definitely be one. Canada, probably. Maybe even Monaco.
Albert Park.
Albert Park's probably long enough where you could get away with it, but
It's not wide enough, though.
it would appeal to Australian fans very much so because they're familiar with the supercars concept of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not against that idea either. I don't see it ever happening, but, if Formula One's looking for a change in format and to change the recipe of the weekend a little bit, why not?
And with the sprint race, too, like Max Verstappen, he got 3 points, didn't he?
Yeah, you get awarded. Yeah, yeah.
He got 3, Hamilton got 2, and Bottas got 1.
Yes, correct.
So that was the sprint race.
Yep.
Then we get to the actual race on Sunday.
Yes, what a chaotic first couple of laps that was.
So, it was 52 laps at Silverstone. A bright and sunny British
Hot.
Sunday
Yeah,
afternoon.
unseasonably warm, according to David Croft.
Yes.
So
That would have meant a lot of people over there who hadn't had a shower. And drinking hot beer.
and being sunburnt, their pale paper-like skin.
So the race was won by Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes.
Yep.
Second place was Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. I'm going to just deviate for a second here. How good was Charles Leclerc in that Ferrari?
How good were both those Ferraris over the weekend?
But particularly Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc had a great weekend. I think he surprised himself even.
And he was having the engine map computer issue, which was causing his power unit to keep cutting out.
Yeah, I mean, even driving around that was still a fantastic weekend, probably beyond anything he could have even hoped for.
And the tricky thing about that was that every time it cut out, he had to reboot the computer system. He was doing that many laps
Yeah,
until it fixed itself.
at 280 kilometers an hour, just trying to
Yeah.
restart Windows 95.
You're
Blue
trying.
screen of death.
You're trying to hold off a 7-time world champion and drive around Silverstone.
Well, the Microsoft Word little clipboard guy, the little paperclip, is like asking you to restart your system. It seems like your system's failing. Do you want to restart? He's like tapping on the screen.
And then all the porno pop-ups.
All the ad blocker fails.
You're hearing some chick talking something about being really horny tonight. You're sitting on, where is this coming from?
Hot single mums in your area.
So that was the gremlin. Someone had been watching porn on Charles Leclerc's.
Matteo Bonotto's computer.
No,
It's got a virus.
on Charles Leclerc's little TV screen on his steering wheel with all his options and stuff, and someone's hacked it and been watching porn on there. Oh, God.
Fantastic.
And it's coming through his earpiece. No, but he did amazingly well. I mean, that car on the medium tyres was actually leaving Lewis Hamilton for dead.
The Ferrari on mediums this year is phenomenal. Unfortunately for him,
He put
he
the
had-
hards
They
on.
had to end the race on hards because the 2 compound rule.
Yeah.
Unlucky.
But he drove his ass off,
Drove
and
the-
he
yeah.
deserved driver of the day.
Oh, far and away. That was
Yeah.
one of the most
He-
slam dunk driver of the day
I mean,
decisions.
He deserved to win that race with how good an effort he did.
Oh, he did, unfortunately.
So
What did he
then,
do?
so then in third place was Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah,
he-
he's not the most happy guy at the moment because he had to let Lewis through.
Yeah, and he does have that little cloud that...
That little cloud.
Yeah,
That little cloud's getting bigger and bigger every race weekend.
well, it seems like every episode we talk about the idea that
George
perhaps
Russell's going
George
to-
Russell is going to Mercedes next year. That's got a weigh on his head. Like
But
he's-
it's not just us talking about it, it's the media talking about it, to the point where Toto Wolff actually had to deflect a question this weekend. He's like, I think, was it the sprint race or qualifying? No, I think it was the sprint race when George Russell finished P8. And one of the reporters was like, oh, not bad, not a bad display from George Russell. And Toto was like, yeah, that's the sort of display like we'd like to see from our academy drivers. And, you know, it's something that will serve him well in the future, in my opinion. And then the reporter's like, so you got any news to report, Toto? And Toto's like, no. So, yeah, that little dark cloud hanging over Valtteri is starting to get a few thunderheads on it now.
mind you, Fox Motorsports and Josh Poliarchi, I can't even pronounce his name, so I'm just going to call him the Great Clown Poliarchi. He was nice enough to twist it on a story he put up on the Fox Motorsports thing where he's trying to blow it up like, you know, Toto's trying to cover up that they've already selected Russell. It's just like, that's speculation at best, mate. I think you should just stick to being the Great Poliarchi, the idiot clown.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, it's not...
Someone's got to go to the Fox Motorsports website and view this crap. He's got to get paid somehow.
Clickbait articles, we've been through this.
Yeah,
We've
I
been
know.
through this. I've
I
done my
know.
piece on that too.
I know. In fourth place was Lando Norris. What an impressive drive from Lando Norris to
He
McLaren.
was so unlucky, though. He was so unlucky. That pit stop probably took away a podium.
Yeah, he would have been in third place easily.
That would have been another podium for him this year. Another third place, unfortunately. I wish he'd go a couple steps further up the podium, but you know what? Another good drive from what he was given. And even more so, his teammate behind him, Daniel Ricciardo.
in fifth.
In fifth, another good weekend for him.
Yeah.
He's starting to get his head around it now.
And even in sixth, you've got Carlos Sainz.
Exactly.
So because if you look at the championship, you've got Group A, which is Red Bull and Mercedes. You've got Group B, which is McLaren and Ferrari. yeah, the Group B cars are really doing some interesting stuff, and they've got drivers that are just they're totally on song.
And keep in mind, Carlos Sainz came from 12
Yeah,
after that sprint race. After he was dead last in that sprint race on like the 6th lap, worked his way up to 12th in that, and then worked his way up from 12th to 6th in the main race. So keep in mind, like, that's how much pace the Ferrari had.
Yeah, like I think like Ferrari didn't think they were going to do well at Silverstone, and they clearly had the better car than McLaren.
I would even argue both Ferraris were faster than the McLarens. It was just unfortunate that Carlos Sainz had to start so far back.
Yeah.
Because of what happened in the sprint race.
But, I mean, it's an impressive drive from all four of those guys.
Exactly. It's exactly what we wanted to see. And look at that top 6. Not a Red Bull in sight.
No. Then in 7th is Fernando Alonso in the Alpine.
He had a good day.
He had a good weekend.
I mean, this is the guy that went from, 12th to 5th in the sprint race on one lap.
Yep.
And then, he fell a couple of places ultimately in the main race. But 7th is far and away probably the best result you could hope for driving an Alpine at this stage.
Well, that's where he finished the sprint race, was 7th.
Yeah, so,
nothing lost, nothing gained.
Nothing lost, nothing gained, and I guess you could definitely take that as a positive in the Alpine camp.
Yeah. In 8th was Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin.
He was quiet. I didn't see a whole lot of him, but you know what? 8th place is a...
It's a point. It's 2 points.
2 points. Oh, it's more
No, it's
than
4
that.
points.
Yeah, it's 4 points.
4 points.
It's more points in the bank for a car that seems to be slowly getting a little bit stronger, I guess.
Yeah. In 9th place was Esteban Ocon, Mr. Personality in the Alpine.
I think he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, he really didn't pop up on the radar too much.
No, he didn't. But you know what? Another solid drive, and
Yeah.
he wasn't convincingly outdriven by Fernando, which he has been on a couple of occasions this year. He took the relative pace and relative performance of the Alpine, and for the most part hung. I mean, he was only 4 seconds behind Fernando by the end of the race. So he, I think he can hold his head high.
Yeah. Then in 10th place was Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri.
Yes, Yuki Tsunoda getting 10th place.
He finally has beaten his teammate Pierre Gasly, who came 11th.
Yes, but Pierre Gasly, I think, had a puncture at the end of the race.
Yeah.
Which is probably the only reason why he outdrove his teammate Pierre Gasly. But you know what? Take what you can in this sport.
Yeah, well, he only finished 3 seconds behind Tsunoda, so it's not...
Yeah, I mean, but I'm pretty sure there was a puncture. Pierre Gasly got a puncture, and that's why they finished in that formation.
Yeah.
But it's a point.
In 12th place was George Russell in the Williams.
Yeah, unlucky. I mean, what do you do? I think, that Williams definitely has a ceiling of performance, and he's well and truly hitting against it.
I don't think it's got a ceiling. I think it's a temperamental car. It's got to be on the.
Got a ceiling. I think it's got a ceiling. Like, there's only so far that car can go.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Nicholas Latifi finished 14th, which is one of his better finishes of the year.
Yeah.
But I think George Russell has found. I don't know. I mean, he hasn't said it obviously, but I think he's found the ceiling of performance in that car.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him and them, but he'll get a point sooner or later.
13th was Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be too upset with that.
Well, I think Giovinazzi and Latifi and Russell, even Tsunoda and Gasly, all benefited from what happened a couple of laps before the end.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to in a second. But he kind of had a bit of a meh race, really.
Yeah.
14th was Nicholas Latifi. That's got to be his best result.
It's one of his better drives. I mean, nothing from 10th to 20th counts for championship points, so it's hard to say, a result's better than another result when they're both scoring 0 points regardless, but that is one of his better drives of the year, definitely. He at least seemingly kept pace with George Russell a little bit better today.
Yeah. 15th was Kimi Räikkönen, who a couple of laps before the end had collided with Perez.
Yeah,
And I believe they were actually fighting for a point.
Yeah, yep, they were up in the championship point range, so a lot of cars behind them. I mean, benefited from that, obviously. Well, everyone, probably Yuki Tsunoda more than anyone else, but
Yeah.
because, again, they're all fighting for 0 points, but I guess it's something to hang your hat on.
But Kimi Räikkönen was not happy after the race.
No.
Like on the team radio, his engineer was saying, "Oh, you did a good job, blah blah blah," and Kimi Räikkönen's gone, "What? We didn't get a point?" And the engineer's like, "No, we didn't get a point because of your collision with Perez." But the car's coming good, and he's just sat there and cut a promo and gone, "No, the car is not good. You need to give me more speed. There is something wrong here. This is not good enough."
I get it, but he's got to understand that that car's got a ceiling too.
And he's also got to understand the man is, 42 years old.
And I think that might be a sign that he knows he's either going to hang the helmet up at the end of this year or very, very soon.
Well, Alfa Romeo wants to keep him around because Alfa Romeo requested that the team hire a former world champion. That's why they hired him when he got dumped from Ferrari.
Well, mission accomplished, I guess, but
Yeah. He hasn't got that much left longer in F1.
I get it. Yeah, I understand. That's probably why he's frustrated. But what's he honestly like? Yeah, okay. You had enough speed to get a world championship point, and you didn't get it because you collided. But don't blame the car speed because it was there.
Yeah,
But it's not a great car, and
I think he was expecting something more like the 2019 Alfa Romeo, where he was constantly getting into Q3. With qualifying and getting a point or two here and there.
They're in a pretty tight fight with Williams and
Haas.
And Haas.
Yeah, they're only separated by 2 points.
Yeah, but
Because Alfa Romeo's only got 2 points.
Exactly. So I don't know what he's expecting. I know he's in a tight fight and he wants more from himself and he wants more from the car, but he already knows it's not a great car.
Yeah,
and he's a bit over the hill by a fair way.
Sergio Perez, he had an absolute shocker of a weekend.
He had an atrocious weekend that he will want to forget very quickly. All the good he's done to this point was just evaporated.
Yeah.
All his win in Baku, his tail gunning performances all year, it all went to shit this weekend.
Yeah. And they haven't offered him a new contract yet. And up until this race, they were like, they were really keen on offering him a contract and keeping him around, and I think they will keep him around. I think Red Bull just had an absolute shocker of a weekend.
If there's two guys that need to come out firing in Hungary, it's the Red Bull boys.
Oh, they will.
Both of them now, Max for obvious reasons, but Sergio now, if he doesn't start feeling the pressure of, okay, I've got to rectify that weekend, he's going to have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those boys are going to have to come out with a fire under their ass.
Yeah, they've got to come out swinging.
Yeah.
In 17th place was Nikita Mazepin. His name's actually Mazepin, but I keep calling him Mazepin.
I called him Mazepin as just... he Mazepin in the sprint race. So.
Yeah. And he managed to beat his teammate Mick Schumacher.
Almost surprisingly, yeah, he managed to outdrive Mick Schumacher, but he's done that a couple of times now.
Yeah.
Is that Mick struggling more than Nikita being a decent...
I think it's more that the car is just a sodding pile of crap. And Schumacher's just like, you're trying to get me to push a snowball up a mountain in hell. Mick Schumacher's got too much talent to be stuck behind the wheel of a lemon that's had the guts squeezed out of it.
Yeah, I mean, the car is a lemon, but I guess it's becoming a little clear that maybe Nikita's got his head around it faster than Mick. But, yeah, that's why. Did you not say there was a rumour that they were trying to push Mick up into Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ferrari is trying to get Schumacher into Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, look, Nikita has the edge on Mick now, but give it a year. Mick will be driving rings around
Oh,
him.
look, most of this season, Schumacher has been outdoing Mazepin anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just probably just this race. You know, it's bound to happen a couple of times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. There's tracks you just don't gel with, and maybe
Yeah.
Silverstone was one of them.
And then the DNFs were Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And Max Verstappen in the Red Bull.
What happened with Seb? I know he spun at some point.
Yeah, he spun into the old pit lane.
Yeah, but then he just wound up.
And then when he drove back on, he had damaged his car.
Right.
I think he had floor damage, and there was an issue with his gearbox.
Yep. Okay, fair enough. I didn't.
Yeah.
I saw him spin, but he didn't hit anything. I wasn't sure why he DNF'd, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to go through the various
The race.
the various points of things that happened throughout the race. So on lap 1, it was really interesting. Lots of fighting between Max and Lewis Hamilton, and then they got to Cops, and there's no easy way to say it. Shit kicked off.
Shit kicked off.
Lewis collided with Max and sent Max into the Shadow Realm,
Yep.
complete with a wheel coming off.
280 kilometers an hour and 51 G into the
Tyre barrier.
Into the tyre barrier. Yeah, was going so fast that he pretty much skated over the top of the sand gravel that was designed to slow him down.
He
and just-
nearly hit the tyre barrier backwards as well.
Yeah, that would have been even worse. So 51 G forces meant a nice little trip to the medical facility.
Yes. But while that chaos was happening, Charles Leclerc overtook both of them and took the lead.
Yes.
And then the race was red flagged.
Yes. Formula One's bizarro land red flag rule.
No, they had to repair the tyre barrier.
Yes.
That's why
Which
they
also-
red flagged the
Which
race.
also gave Mercedes a chance to repair Lewis's car.
Yes. But I will get to that a bit later.
Yeah.
So then lap 4, we had the restart, and Sebastian Vettel spun
Yes.
into the old pit lane, and I've just written here in my notes, Hamo gets. I don't know what. Oh, that's right. He got notified of his 10-second penalty.
Lewis Hamilton
That's
got
right.
the 10-second penalty. Kimi Raikkonen had a big moment too. We didn't see that in the highlights, but Kimi nearly destroyed his Alfa Romeo on that same lap. All the while, Charles Leclerc was leading the race, which
He was pulling away from Mercedes.
like that Ferrari on medium tyres is a rocket, eh?
Yeah.
Yep.
So then we fast forward to lap 15, and Charles Leclerc starts complaining that his engine is cutting out due to the engine map issue, because it kept the engine map kept randomly changing or something, and so he had to start rebooting his computer's laptop while driving the car.
While holding off 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton.
That
It takes some skill.
Yeah, 10 points for Gryffindor.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty awesome.
So then lap 22, Lando Norris pits and has an issue with the front left, was it? Was the front
Negative, right rear.
left? Right rear.
Comes into the pits, right rear tyre. He's coming third at this stage and was on track to cover Valtteri Bottas off. Came in, right rear tyre just would not come off. Took 3 or 4 seconds, and the sub 2-second pit stop that you generally aim for became a 6-second pit stop, which was enough for Valtteri Bottas to jump him a lap later when he came out ahead of Lando, when Valtteri had a very clean 2.2 second stop. So That, took away Lando's chance at another podium, unfortunately.
Carlos Sainz also had an issue with the front left on his car.
Yeah,
when
Carlos
he
Sainz
pitted.
came in, I have it here as lap 29, came in from
yeah.
P2, front left tyre wouldn't tighten up.
Yeah.
This was after lap 28, Lewis Hamilton pitted, serving his 10-second penalty
Yeah.
in giving the lead to Charles Leclerc.
Then we get to lap 31. Lap 31 where Hamilton passes Lando Norris. Because once he put those hard tyres on, Hamilton was on a mission. He was flying in that thing.
Yeah, well, the Mercedes on the hard tyres seem to be like the Ferraris on the mediums. They're
Yeah.
just suited to the ground.
Yeah.
And Mercedes was running a lot less downforce this weekend too.
Yeah.
So they were definitely slippery.
Then on lap 40, Bottas is ordered by the team to let Hamilton past. I'm sure that would have gone down really well.
Yeah, that would have been a real good debrief because Valtteri was probably on track for... It could have been Valtteri going after Charles Leclerc for the race win instead of Lewis. But, you know, when your biggest championship rival's lying in a hospital bed by this stage...
You've got to maximise the points.
You have to. It's understandable. I mean, I'm sure Valtteri he'll see it that way. He won't be happy about it, but it's probably one of the more understandable position swaps that you'll see.
Then we fast forward to lap 47 when Sergio Perez and Kimi Raikkonen collide. I hate to say it, I think that was Kimi's fault. He was on the inside. And, but it was I think it was deemed a racing incident, so...
That's two guys not having a very good weekend anyway. Well, I mean, Kimi was having an alright one, I guess. Sergio definitely wasn't.
No.
And that did not help his cause.
Then we get to lap 50, and Sergio Perez sets the fastest lap time, which is completely irrelevant because he was outside of the top 10. But he did prevent Lewis Hamilton from getting it, so that's something. But also on the same lap, Lewis Hamilton finally catches up to Charles Leclerc and passes him at Copse. Very similar manoeuvre to what he did to Max Verstappen on the first lap.
Yes, but Charles Leclerc wisely stayed wide, a little bit too wide actually, which ultimately cost him a place because he went over the top of the ripple strip. And
I have a theory.
You have a theory?
I have a theory. Leclerc was behind Hamilton and Verstappen when that accident happened.
Yeah.
Do you think possibly Leclerc went, if I don't give him space, he's going to do the same thing to me? That's kind of how it looked like to me. Like he did.
I'm sure that went through his head for a second, but I mean, he was the angle was a lot different too. Max was a long way down the track when Lewis hit him.
Yeah.
But Lewis was also tighter to the corner this time as well, and Charles was wider. So unfortunately, when he ran over the exit curb, it twitched his car sideways, which lost him the drive going down into Maggotts Beckett's Chapel, and Lewis was able to get past him, which sucks because he had led every lap to that point.
Yeah. And then the final lap, lap 52, Lewis Hamilton wins, and then I've got something that I wasn't terribly thrilled about watching the telecast, and I've written it in my notes here as Lewis Hamilton makes a show of himself.
Winning the British Grand Prix for the 8th time in front of your home fans, the first sellout crowd since the coronavirus pandemic started. But you got to understand that your biggest championship rival's in hospital because you hit him.
Yeah.
Or he hit you. I guess it doesn't really matter.
The antics he was doing of driving off the track and waving the flag and all that stuff. If I remember correctly, someone in the Sky Sports commentary team, I think it might have been Martin Brundle, said he may want to be careful with this because you're not actually supposed to be doing all of this.
Yeah. What? Driving off the track and
Driving off the track and carrying on. You're supposed to finish, do your lap of honour, and then get it into Parc Ferme.
Was it investigated? Was that...
I think it only happened if someone complained.
Right, because I've heard a rumour that he may potentially lose 2 World Championship points. I don't know if it was because of that or because of the Verstappen incident.
Oh, look, I just thought he was really just making a big song and dance of himself. And I absolutely...
It's sort of exactly what I would expect from him, to be honest.
And I totally understand where Max Verstappen's coming from with saying, it's really disrespectful and, he crashed me out and now he's carrying on like he's a hero. That was really disrespectful. And I do, my heart goes out to Max Verstappen for that.
It's completely different circumstances, but you know what the thought in my head is?
What?
Of Niki Lauda lying in the hospital bed watching James Hunt win all his championship points. I mean, I know it's not anywhere near that level, that magnitude, but if you needed someone with Lauda-esque motivation going into the next race, it's Max Verstappen getting back out of that medical facility with a fire under his ass and going after Lewis.
This is what this season could be. It could be the 1976 championship all over again.
Yowie wowie, it could be.
As my phone is going berserk.
Look at you, podcast master, not putting your phone on vibrate.
I know. I'm absolutely professional.
Unprofessional, baby.
Yeah,
unscripted, that's unfiltered.
That's
it. It is the tagline.
Yeah, that's it. A moniker. But yeah, like it is shaping up where you've got Lewis Hamilton, who is the modern day playboy, like James Hunt, and you've got Max Verstappen, who is the modern day Niki Lauda.
I think Max probably has his playboy moments too, but yeah, I think so. I think that's as close as the comparison will go.
Well, I mean, they used to call James Hunt the Shunt, and well,
yeah, Max has had his moments. Definitely, he's been a torpedo or two. Yeah.
You know what amazed me though was after the race, or even during the race, one Facebook page that I thought would be very impartial or would be pro Hamilton, Trollmuller 1. They blew up. Everything was anti-Lewis Hamilton. Like he's a dirty driver and he's a this and he's a that. Like they didn't make it a race thing.
They didn't make it a race thing, but a lot of people did.
A lot of people did, and we'll get to that in a sec. But like Trollmuller 1, like whoever Trollmuller 1 is, he really lost the plot over this. Like he went from being a fun page to this isn't right, this is a joke, and it's kind of strange. It was kind of surreal.
I had 3 opinions of this crash, and I still don't know which one I really settle on.
Well, let's talk about the crash then. Let's get to the pit stop points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The crash. My personal opinion is, initially I thought it was a racing incident, but the more I think about it, the more I see the footage, I keep thinking Lewis Hamilton is at fault. He should have either backed off, because he threw it up. At no stage was he ahead of Max.
They argued that they were side by side, but at best they were side by side. I don't even think they were that.
No, Max was ahead the whole time.
Yeah.
Even if it was only by 5 inches, 6 inches, he was still ahead. And then, and Max is on the racing line.
Yeah, at the point of impact, he's on the racing line. He's heading back towards the apex.
And Lewis Hamilton, to be absolutely honest, did not look like he was going to hit that apex.
No.
Yeah,
I've had all three. Initially, I thought it was Lewis's fault. Then I looked at the onboard and I thought, okay, maybe Max could have opened the steering. And then I thought, you know what, 50-50, it was a racing incident, but I don't know. I mean, Lewis isn't on the apex. Max is aiming for the apex. What do you do at 280 kilometers an hour?
Well,
Do you, Lewis, I think it was the only way to counteract Max's aggression, because he's been burnt multiple times this year by Max's aggression, putting his car in the "you either lift or we crash."
yeah.
How many times we've said it 3 or 4 times this year?
In the center position.
In the center position, you either lift or we crash, and 3 times he's lifted and conceded the position, and this time he didn't lift, and they would have both been out of the race had the race not been stopped. And Formula One's dumb.
We'll get to that in a
Yeah,
second.
I do not agree with that rule.
But yeah, now, like, Red Bull has come out and said they think that he should have been disqualified from the race and all this. I think the 10-second penalty is fair.
I think it was justified. I think the 10-second penalty was fair. I don't think it wasn't intent. Like,
the only other punishment I'd like to put on Lewis Hamilton is I think they should put 2 points on his super license.
They did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did. It wasn't I mean, no, I don't think it was dangerous in the context of dangerous driving.
The outcome of the event was dangerous.
The outcome of the event, only because of where it was.
Yeah.
It's at one of the fastest corners on the entire F1 calendar. You know, I don't think it was intentional. Lewis didn't try and ram me off the track. If anything, I mean, we're looking at the still photo now. Like, Lewis's hands are turned.
Yeah.
And Max has turned in, obviously, more sharply and more aggressively. It's not like Lewis is holding the car straight and driving into Max.
But that photo that we've got up is after they've touched. That's not before. That's after they've touched.
Yeah. Look, what do you do? I mean, it's less than a split second.
Well, again, like, our only frame of reference is the fact that we play the video game, which, you know, some people will sit there and say, well, that's not really a frame of reference, but not this championship season that we're doing now, which is last year's game, but I believe it was the previous championship. Our mate Barry Enchilada, I actually pulled the same maneuver on him, and he was in where Max Verstappen is, in the photo, and it happened. Like, I didn't crash him out, but he sort of went off the track a little bit to recover, because, like, where do you go when someone's trying to shoot a rocket up the inside of cops?
Exactly.
And the thing is that just watching it happen, like, Lewis should have backed off. That's my thought. He should have backed off, because once you get to cops, if you're not ahead, you're going to send someone to the shadow realm. So I want to shout out to Barry. Hi, Barry. Thanks for showing up tonight.
Sure, he'll make up for it, mate.
Yeah. He's all right. He's working. But it was a spectacular crash, though. I mean, the wheel came off and everything. It was...
Yeah, there was no coming back from that one.
Yeah. So that's the crash. And I have to bring this up, too, because he, like we said, when he overtook Charles Leclerc, it was the same corner, and it was very much the same maneuver.
Yes, but Sky Sports went over that, and Lewis was a long way more on the inside.
Yeah.
But Charles Leclerc was also a long way more on the outside. The problem is Max was trying to get back to the apex maybe a little bit more quickly than he possibly should have. I mean...
The flip side of the coin, though, is if he doesn't try and go for the apex, when he comes off the corner, he goes off the track.
Yeah. Yeah. And the flip side is, if Lewis lifts, he basically hands Max the lead of the race, probably for a while, because it's pretty hard to get back past, that early in the race with full fuel. It's hard to make that move. Like, if he had let Max go, Max probably wins the race. Like,
Yeah.
I know the Mercedes had less downforce and was the fastest car on the track in a straight line, but I think Lewis felt if he lets Max go now, he loses the race. And I think Lewis, I can't remember if it was a direct quote from him or not. He's like, I had to do something. Like, I just wanted to do something today. I wanted to show something. And, maybe Christian Horner was right in calling it desperate. Maybe it was.
Well, that actually brings me conveniently to another one of my questions I wanted to ask you. Is Lewis starting to drive desperate? Is he starting to be over-aggressive? Or is he driving like he's on tilt?
No.
Or do you think he was aggressive specifically at this race because it's his home Grand Prix and he kind of wanted to show off?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, he is.
I think it's column A and column B. I think he is
both.
desperate because he wants to win the title. And he knows that his car is not as good as the Red Bull.
In this instance, I think it was maybe a little desperate.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's in front of a packed home crowd, 144,000 Brits. But was it dangerous? No, not really. Was it driving on tilt? I wouldn't say so. I think it was just he wanted to show his hand because Max is showing Lewis up. Imola, Austria, 3 or 4 races now.
Yeah.
Max is showing him up on the first lap in the center position, and Lewis has ceded the position, and 3 out of 4 times that I can think of has gone on to lose the race because of it.
Yeah.
Lewis now desperate for answers because the championship gap was 33 points before this race. At his home race, needs to get something done, and this was his something, I guess.
Yeah. It's going to be scary for the next race, though, in Hungary because the first corner is a 180-degree turn. It's a hairpin.
Yeah.
So that's going to be scary. And there's going to be a lot of corners where it's going to be tight racing. It's something that I've found Lewis Hamilton really is not terribly great at is the wheel-to-wheel racing. Him and Sebastian Vettel really don't do wheel-to-wheel racing very well. It's like they're sort of accustomed to jumping in a car and it being the fastest car and just...
They are lead from the front drivers, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Hungaroring, but it's a very Red Bull orientated track, I think. Max, the first few corners of that lends to wheel-to-wheel racing, and I think you're going to see Max back at his best.
Yeah.
So if Lewis wants to avoid a crash in Hungary, probably going to have to give him some space because I think Max has got a fire under him now, and he's got the perfect place to show it.
Right, then we get to a subject we talked about earlier, which was at the end of lap 1, the race was red flagged.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that has also aggravated me, and I'd love to know why this happens when there's a red flag. Why are the cars not put under parc ferme conditions under a red flag? Lewis Hamilton had damage to his wheel rim.
To the point where his car would have had to retire had the race not been stopped.
And he also broke part of the front wing.
Yeah.
And they actually showed it on camera with them getting a bottle of glue out and gluing it back on. That shouldn't be allowed. The only time I think parc ferme conditions should be broken with a red flag is if they're changing from slicks to intermediates or wet tyres
Yeah,
because the weather has
Yeah,
changed.
if it's chucking down rain, then you should be allowed to touch your car.
Other than that, it should be parc fermé conditions.
Yeah, it's not a new race. It's a suspended race.
Yeah. What
Like,
you
I
go,
know this was only one lap into the race, but it's not the restart of the entire Grand Prix. It's just picking up from where it left off.
yeah, which means the cars should be picking up from where they left off.
Exactly. If your car's damaged, or as I saw a comment on Facebook today, if your car's damaged and you want to repair it, or you're able to repair it, you have to start from the pit lane.
Yeah.
You have to start at the back of the grid from the pit lane. You should
Yeah.
not be allowed to touch that car, change the
that's right.
tyres, nothing. I agree. The only time parc fermé conditions should ever be broken is if it's hammering down rain to the point where it's dangerous.
Yeah, for safety reasons.
Yeah, for safety reasons. You don't repair your car and go back onto a perfectly dry track with a fresh set of tyres. That's a joke.
Yeah,
I don't know of any other motorsport where you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, and it's what amazes me is that even Sky Sports never seem to question it. They never sit there and go,
Because it's part of Formula One rules. I'm gonna have to research it, but I don't know why that's a rule because I can't think of any other. You can't do it in NASCAR. You can't do it in supercars.
can't do it in IndyCar.
Yeah, if you're 5 laps, if you're 20 laps from the end of a race, and there's a red flag, and you go bolt on a fresh set of sauce because you've still got one left over from qualifying, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what cost Carlos Sainz the win at Monza in 2019 in the McLaren, because Pierre Gasly was able to put a fresh set of hards on during the red flag.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
it shouldn't have been allowed.
Yeah, I think parc fermé conditions should always be adhered to unless the weather determines that it's safe enough that you can change your car setup and put a different, not compound, but a different tyre on, going from slicks to wets.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that.
There is one thing I want to bring up before we get to the final point, the final pit lane question for tonight. One thing that neither JB and I condone is, though we don't agree with what happened with the Lewis Hamilton crash, and the antics that are surrounding that. We here at the P&J F1 podcast, we don't condone the racism that's being thrown at Lewis Hamilton. Many Facebook pages, including the F1 Facebook page, have had comments about his race or referring to him as a monkey. That's not called for, and it's really highlighted how they do these things where it's Black Lives Matters and trying to get racism and encourage inclusivity in Formula One. And then all these morons just ruin it.
It's all these nameless faces, all these
Keyboard warriors.
Exactly. You don't think they're going to rock up on your doorstep and find you for it.
I bet you half of these people, if they saw Lewis Hamilton in the street, would walk up
Wouldn't
to him.
say to his face.
No, they'd be sitting there going, "You're so great, you're so
Yeah,
wonderful. Can I get a
praise
photo
him.
with you?"
I don't agree all the time with the way Lewis carries himself, but racism is not on. The way the English racially abused their own players after the Euro 2020 final, their own players, their own countrymen, was disgraceful.
Yeah.
Marcus Rashford, even as a Liverpool fan, I felt sorry for the kid. I watched him miss the penalty. But, for something that was supposed to unite your country, and did unite your country for 4 weeks, that tournament, to think that you could go out to a guy who's wearing your jersey and playing for your country and bringing you joy, to go out and discriminate against him because of the color of his skin is deplorable and head scratching,
Yeah, it's right.
to say the least. And to think that Lewis would cop the same treatment for what I'm going to call a racing incident, because I think at the end of the day it is a racing incident. You know, it's not on. You know, Lewis, yeah, okay, he's the front and center of attention for Formula One. He's the face of Formula One because he's a 7-time world champion and he's earned it and he deserves it.
Yeah.
And he's front and center for the end racism and the Black Lives Matter. And, you know, people can get all, like, uppity, but, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? And then people go out and prove exactly why we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we started doing the end racism thing in Formula One, I thought it was a little bit pretentious on Lewis Hamilton's behalf. Because it's Lewis Hamilton, I sat there and went, well, you know, this is a guy who at the time was a 6-time world champion. You know, he started in Formula One in one of the top teams. Like, he came into Formula One straight into McLaren.
Yep.
You can sit there and say he's pretty much had everything laid at his feet for the last 13, 14 years
Not
in
through
Formula One.
Not through lack of talent, though, not through lack of deserving it, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it did feel a little bit pretentious from where I stand. But when you see all the comments on the F1 page, and I did run my, like, you see the comments and you run your little mouse clicker over their profile name and see where they're from, and a lot of them are from England. You're like, it just shows a lot of English fans, but not just English fans, but a lot of Formula One fans are just idiots.
Because they can get away with it. Because they'll never meet
There's
Lewis
no
Hamilton.
repercussions.
You'll never see Lewis Hamilton just walking down the street, and he'll never know it was you. And to be quite honest, I hope he doesn't read any of it. I hope he can hold his head up high and move past it and take it in stride. And I'm sure there's instances even coming up through junior formulas and karting where he's probably had to.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is going to get to him too much. But
There's-
I just thought the Formula One community globally was
better than this.
Better than this.
Well, that's one thing. I know that Max Verstappen is really, really angry at Lewis Hamilton, particularly like how he made a big song and dance of himself after he won the race.
Yep.
But it's one thing I hope that Max Verstappen does when he's
Cool heads prevail.
I mean, still be pissed at Lewis Hamilton for it. Yeah, it'll make the championship better. But I'd like to see Max come out and say, I don't condone all the racist comments.
I'd like to see him just shake his hand. Like, just shake his hand. Just say, look, I've got your back. Like, yeah, okay, maybe there were some Dutch fans that got on it, and it probably was.
Yeah.
But they don't represent Max's view.
Yeah.
You know, there's not... Max is loving every second of this rivalry just as much as Lewis is.
Just as much as the fans are.
Just as much as the fans are, and we don't need it ruined by racism. We don't need it ruined by finger pointing. We don't need it ruined by idiots. You know,
Yeah.
We as a community and as fans should be better than this.
Yeah.
So, best of luck to Lewis, and I know he'll take it in stride because he's a professional. And yeah, really, really not happy with the amount of abuse. There's no place for it.
And it's not just, aiming at Lewis Hamilton or the English team in the Euro Cup. Like, it's not cool online at all.
At all. This is everything. This is like Indigenous players in AFL, Indigenous players in rugby league, rugby union, soccer, the Italians in soccer. Like, Yeah, there's no room for racism. Like,
And it's not just racism. It's different ideologies and different sexual orientation, those type of things.
none of
It's
that matters.
It,
None
it
of, what does that matter to you?
yeah, it's people who are afraid of it. That's the worst thing about it. It's people who are afraid of it because they don't
It's something
understand.
that's not going to. If it doesn't affect you personally, just keep it to yourself. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? But just
Yeah.
be better, Formula One fans. Be better. Be better.
So we're going to move from something really sad to something that's making me very happy.
And excited.
Very happy, very excited. They unveiled the sort of, I don't know, the prototype
The full-scale model for the first time.
of the 2022 car.
The 2022 chassis was
Oh.
unveiled. And my goodness. They wanted to go out. This is the poster car. This is the car that they wanted little kids to put up on their bedroom wall. And that's a cool car. You know those Hot Wheels cars you used to get? And they used to look real awesome.
You can still get them, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
This is that.
Yeah.
This is that in real life.
This is the equivalent of putting up a poster of like a Lamborghini Countach back
In
when
the
in
80s.
the 80s.
And it was like so futuristic and
Yeah.
brilliant. This is that.
Yes.
Yes.
That is just a sexy bit of kit.
This is Formula One flipping the script and using technology for good again. This is taking the ground effect that they banned in the 80s, the aero tweaks that they banned, the wheel covers and the double diffusers and all that shit, and bringing it all back. Bringing it all back into one goddamn sexy looking package.
For the sake of making the racing better.
And for the sake of making the racing better and making it cheaper and simplifying everything.
Yeah.
Basically, the concept of this car is to take all the air from over the top of it that is currently generating downforce and use all the air going underneath it to generate the downforce from 2022.
Yeah.
Taking the downforce loss currently is 50% at 10 meters, I think, or 5 meters. It'll be down to 18% next year.
Yeah.
So,
And this has been the work of Ross Brawn, Stefano Domenicali, and Pat Simmons. Pat Simmons was in Renault. He worked for Renault when Crashgate happened.
this has been going on since 2017, and even though they've delayed it a year, it's a phenomenal looking car. I mean, it's everything that Formula One should have been.
And it shows that Liberty Media want the racing to be better.
They want Formula One to be as even as possible.
And by putting Ross Brawn and Stefano Domenicali and Pat Simmons as the brains of what's going to go ahead with Formula One, compared to what we had with Bernie Eccleston, who just seemed to want to make more money for rich people, this shows a concise effort on behalf of Formula One to make it a competitive spectacle.
Long story short, this Formula One, Liberty Media's vision for Formula One is no longer about the shareholders, it's about the fans. They know what drives this sport. It's engagement and good racing and TV views. And if this car does its job next year, we haven't seen it on track yet. I haven't seen it run in anger yet. I'm keen for that. But this is certainly a step in the right direction.
And not only, like, you've got the change of the body. I mean, like, that front wing. Wow, that thing is striking.
It's simplified, but it looks glorious.
And the rear wing as well. The rear
the
wing.
curved rear wing is just a sight to behold. It reminds me of the McLaren P1 rear wing, actually. That bottom part, just phenomenal. But look,
And then you've got
that's a big piece of carbon fiber, just like...
yeah.
That's a massive piece of carbon fiber, that front wing.
But you also get the new tyres as well.
Yes. With the Kevlar layer to stop the tyres exploding. The 18-inch rims.
Which are going to have covers over them, like they were using, 2007?
Yeah, I mean, I know why. Doesn't mean I'm a fan of it, but
Yeah.
I know why. It's to stop the turbulent air going back over the car and preventing the car behind from having downforce, which is also what those little wheel covers over those arches over the front wheels are,
Yep.
to disperse the air up over the back of the car. So yeah, pretty much this whole package looks brilliant, and when it does its job, is going to promote closer racing and being able to follow the car in front through corners for once.
And something that hasn't actually been mentioned a lot is that next year's engines are running 10% bioethanol fuel.
About time. I didn't think supercars would beat Formula One on anything, but V8 supercars have been running E10 fuel for a while
Yeah.
to save on costs, and Formula One is heading in that direction next year.
Next year it's going to be 10%. Then the year after that, I think it's 20%. So it's going to be a gradual increase.
Yeah.
And I think by 2030 they want it to be 100% biofuel.
Yep, completely. Is it zero emissions?
Yeah.
Or zero emissions. There's going to be no oil in that fuel at all. And that's going to filter down into road cars eventually.
And I think that is something that Porsche and Audi, when they sat down for the meeting with the other engine suppliers, that was something that they wanted to do, because their parent company, Volkswagen, got into a lot of trouble about.
Yeah, they lied about their emissions.
Yeah.
And they got sued a big amount of money for that.
So I think that's something that they want to add to their company's
Repertoire.
not so much their repertoire, but their corporate image or their public image.
Yeah, and this is only good for the future of motorsport as well. Like,
That's right.
with global warming, whatever, climate change, whether you believe in it or not, it's been an issue for a little while. It's been a hot topic for a little while.
Well,
The future of motoring was probably a little bit in doubt.
yeah.
You know, people have been trying to find greener ways of doing this.
Well, it's like Jay Leno was on Top Gear, and I think he was being interviewed by Captain Slow, and he said to Captain Slow that the reason why he has like a Toyota Prius or whatever it is, he said he can drive that car from Monday to Friday, so then on the weekends he can crack out the Mustang or the McLaren F1 or whatever. You know, the car that will kill the planet, he can drive that for 2 days, because
It's like guilt-free emission.
yeah.
It's like when you book a plane ticket and they're like, "Do you want to add 20 cents to carbon offset?"
Yeah.
No, I don't, because I just got a packet of chips in your airport for $7.80.
Yeah.
You thieving bastards.
And you broke my shit in the fucking
Yeah, and you lost my bag and my shit's broken, you
fucking assholes. Yeah.
dogs.
Right, so we get to the current driver standings. So we've got Max Verstappen, who's still leading the championship on 185 points. Lewis Hamilton is in second place on 177 points. Lando Norris has gone up to third place with 113 points.
Mr. Consistency, he, what's the record now?
15 races.
consecutive races. The most of any McLaren driver ever.
Yep.
15 consecutive point-scoring races. Massive, huge.
Valtteri Bottas is in fourth on 108 points. Sergio Perez has gone down to fifth on 104 points. That's very close for third place in the drivers.
Yeah, that's going to be a fight to the end, that one.
And then you've got Charles Leclerc in sixth with 80 points. Carlos Sainz in seventh with 68 points. Daniel Ricciardo is in eighth with 50 points. Pierre Gasly is in ninth with 39 points. And Sebastian Vettel is 10th with 30 points. And the team standings, the constructors, Red Bull is ahead by 4 points on 289 points from Mercedes, who have 285. McLaren is ahead of Ferrari on 163 points. Ferrari has 148. Then in Division C, you've got AlphaTauri on 49 points, Aston Martin on 48 points, and Alpine on 40 points. That's a very hotly contested battle. And then in Division D, Alfa Romeo on 2 points, Williams on Zut, and Haas bringing up the rear on Zut.
Yeah, very tight battle between the all those divisions, isn't it?
Yeah.
Red Bull Mercedes is down to 4 points now. McLaren and Ferrari, they're going to be close all year. AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, and Alpine are going to fight that out all year. And we'll see what the others do. Not much, but we'll see what they do.
And then the next race is the Hungarian F1.
Yes, the Hungaroring before our
Summer break. Or our winter break, because we live in the opposite side of the world.
That's true.
Where we will do our special episode.
Yes.
And then come
Someone
back.
has to start doing some research for that.
See, I've already done it.
Good man.
And then we'll be back in 2 weeks with the Hungarian. And then after that, and after our special episode, will be one of my favourite races of the year, Spa-Francorchamps, the Belgian F1.
It's every Formula One's fan. One of their favourite races.
That one, and then followed straight away by Monza.
Yes.
The Cathedral of Speed.
Yes, unfortunately Singapore's not there, but oh well.
Oh well. Anyway, thank you for tuning in this week.
Yeah,
for
it was
episode.
A bumper episode this week. I really enjoyed it.
And we even had to cut some stories off purely because there was so much to go through on this episode.
We can spread it out for a quieter day.
Yeah.
You know, you guys have stuck with us for an hour and whatever now. So, you know, you didn't need to hear us rambling all night for 2 hours. I mean, we don't expect the world of you, but thanks for listening anyway.
Yes, and if you want, ring the bell so you're notified next time we put some form of crappy video up.
Next time you have insomnia and want something to listen to,
yeah,
we'll be here. We'll be here.
We're also great to have on in the background while you're having sex with your partner. It's great. That didn't go well, did it? You can click subscribe if you wish. Give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Please no racist comments because we've already covered that tonight.
Don't be an asshole on the internet. We already told you. Be better, Formula One fans.
Yes.
Be better.
And we will see you in 2 weeks for the Hungarian Formula One Grand Prix.
Catch you later.
Thank you, guys. See you later.